Before we start today's episode of On Production, a quick note to our listeners. This episode comes with a unique visual element. We'll be joined by AJ Unitas from Wrapbook for a screen sharing session to demonstrate the Wrapbook Production Incentive Center. While you can enjoy this as a podcast, I highly recommend watching the video version for a full understanding of how the tool works. So if you have the chance, make sure to check out the video to get the most out of this episode. Welcome back to On Production, brought to you by Wrapbook. Today I'm thrilled to have a special guest, AJ Unitas from Wrapbook. AJ has been instrumental in creating the Wrapbook Production Incentive Center, a helpful set of tools for filmmakers. In this episode, AJ will walk us through the Incentive Center and help you understand how filmmakers can take advantage of these free tools when approaching production incentives for their projects. AJ, welcome to On Production.
Thanks so much for having me, Cameron. Yeah, I'm super excited to showcase with the listeners and watchers for this episode just what we build about production incentives. So without further ado, let me go share my screen. Perfect. So if you go to wrapbook.com and you click on resources and go to our Production Incentive Center, or just go to wrapbook.com/Production Incentive Center, you'll come across what we've just built in the past couple months, which is Wrapbook's sort of all-in-one-stop shop for production incentives. So what's really cool about our center is that we kind of really try to build it from the tools first perspective. So obviously when you go to any type of resource guide, whether it's a directory of incentives or it's a state incentive site, you're primarily looking for very few very specific answers for your production. So what we did is we built a bunch of tools which we hope can get you the right answer faster. So to kind of jump right into it, when you come on our incentive page, you'll first see that we have a bunch of different tools to maximize your production. And I'm going to basically quickly just go through and give you guys an overview of what these tools can do to start your incentive search. So I'll kick things off, Cameron, with our Production Incentives Finder. So this tool basically allows you to get hooked up with all the potential production incentives you could have for your production. So to get things started, let's come up with a potential project. So what are you shooting, Cameron? What type of project are you interested in making?
Let's call it a mini-series.
A mini-series. Awesome. So you're making a mini-series. And the next question is, what's your budget?
This is a $15 million production.
Ooh, nice budget. Okay. After you enter those details, and we enter just some quick information and just about who we are, our incentive center will actually give you a list of all the potential incentives that your project could be eligible for. So you can see here, we look at our list, we see Arizona as a potential, California as a potential, and this also shows you all the different types of qualifying production types for the incentives, because not every state has an incentive for every type of media. And the cool thing here is we can actually see the minimum spend, listed right underneath of how much you potentially would need to spend to get qualified for the incentive. So this is our first sort of incentive finder. The idea here is that it can really streamline your search, so you can get a moment's glance, right away, of the incentives you could be eligible for. And again, with all things incentive based, think of this as a first line of defense, but always get in touch with an incentives expert like Wrapbook. We have our very own Ryan Broussard who can get into the nitty gritty of your project. And now I'd love to take you guys to our next feature we built, which is this compare functionality. So with any type of incentive on our site, you can actually click compare, and we'll actually have a little sort of container down here. So as you look at different incentives, you can sort of add them to your shopping cart, so to speak. And by clicking compare, you can actually see a breakdown of incentives from different states and cities and municipalities, whatever have you. But what's cool is that in this sort of view, you can actually compare side by side, what is the spend in Colorado versus Alabama.
I just have to say, AJ, that's really cool, because if I have a project, some states or some incentive programs may not even want my project, if I'm doing a reality television show. So I love that tool that you built. So I tell the system my project type, my budget, and then it gives me a full host of places where I would at least at the base level be qualified. And then you have this cool tool where then you can compare of those full programs in the portfolio, maybe only 5 are interesting to me. And then now I can actually compare them here. That's super cool.
Oh, I think hopefully it's going to make the incentive process a lot easier for studios, line producers, production companies. That's really our goal with this. And other thing too, by the way, Cameron, you mentioned this different qualifying production types. The beauty of comparing with this tool is that you can also see what type of incentive is it? Because for example, you might want to grant a rebate for your project whereas some people might want like a tax credit, which they could resell. Yeah, and by scrolling down, you can actually see like, more details about what's the spend, what's the above the line residence. And we have little answers right here to explain like what all these things mean if you're a newbie when it comes to incentives. Things like project criteria, additional bonuses. And also too, you'll notice we have a link to every single film office. So let's say you just want to get in touch with, Colorado Film Office and talk to them and see like, what they could do for you. The great news is you can actually email them or go to their website right away. We're really excited about those two tools, but we've got two more to show. The next tool I'm going to show you is our AI tool, which is extremely exciting. So basically, everyone, is talking about ChatGPT. As of the recording of this podcast, Sam Altman has been reinstated as CEO, but when you watch it, who knows? But I will say this is our tool, which is AI Production Incentives Expert. So what we did here, and Cameron, has also played a huge role in developing this, which is basically we've trained this bot on every single page and all the information we've imported into the website about production incentives. And what the experience is that you can actually talk to this as if it's, our very own, incentives expert, and it will literally try to answer your question the best of your ability. So to demonstrate this to, the listeners and viewers, I'm going to basically first start by just giving my email. Great. And then after that, I'm going to ask it a question. I'm telling this AI bot that my $8 million budget feature film takes place in a forest. So that's a really important exterior to me. And I'm asking it, what are some places I could shoot that offer a fully refundable incentive? Because my production, we don't want to get involved in trying to sell it. So we just want to be able to get a refund on everything we make. So by asking the AI bot this, it actually then goes through all of our pages we published. And it's writing out right now, as an AI incentives expert, I can provide general guidance in states that offer fully refundable incentives that have forested areas suitable for your feature film. And right here, it's actually told us, it's generating a lot. It's suggesting New York, which obviously has upstate New York, a lot of forests there as well, Georgia as well, and Louisiana, which is great. And what's interesting too is that with this type of answer and this type of AI bot, you can actually talk to it as if it's a human being. So you can ask more questions about well, what does that mean to be fully refundable? Or could you find me a state that has a better, return on, above the line crew? So it's exciting that this basically is part of our experience. So yeah, that's our third tool.
I think what's cool about that, AJ, is the answer here also gives you a link to then compare those states as well. So you can really have a conversation with this thing, dig into the nuance of what is fully refundable, what is a credit, what is a grant, giving it really is surprising how useful this can be just as a kind of touch point to dig into further information.
Totally. And with everything we build at Wrapbook, whether you've seen our product or just kind of played around with our resources, we love to integrate everything with each other. So for example, just like you said, Cameron, you could literally take this information and go right to that compare page and start comparing the different incentives side by side. So we're really excited about making everything extremely interconnected. So it's just so easy. So that way the incentive process isn't so laborious. And the last tool I'll show everyone is our state incentive map. So what we've developed here is we have a map that has this color coded based on, the different types of incentives. You can see here we've identified which ones are credit rebate combos, which ones are fully transferable tax credits, which states have no incentives as of right now. So it's great. It's a great way to kind of look at a moment's glance. But the cool thing I'll say is that let's click into California for a second. So in California, you might know that there's a lot of other places within California that also offer incentives. So what's really cool about these pages is we actually show secondary incentives is what we're calling them. So you could explore what San Francisco is offering currently within California. So that's awesome. So once you click into a state, you can look at local incentives as well. And every single page has the same information, which is what is the basics of the incentive? What am I going to get money back on and where? Also things like, do you need a screen credit? Things about withholding, funding caps for the incentive. We also talk about project criteria, what are the specifics your project needs. I will say with all of our data on our site, it's definitely, only tells half the story when it comes to incentive. Because with incentives, when you talk about your project, what is the project about? What is the breakdown of your crew and things even diversity and storytelling can play an important part in whether or not you could be eligible for an incentive. So that's all here. Also, we also tell you how to apply as well. And like I mentioned before, we have contacts to all the film offices and all these pages. So even if you just want to get in contact with a film office, the Rapbook Production Incentive Center is exactly where you want to start. So yeah, we're super excited with these tools. And, I don't know if you talk about this on the podcast that much, but our Rapbook newsletter is a great way to stay up to date on all the different changes. Like as of right now, we have more exciting changes coming to the center. So it's totally up to date for the production community.
That's awesome. AJ, thank you so much for sharing. And we're excited to get this out into people's hands. Thanks for being on production.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Cameron.